Hello and welcome to Fur, Fins, and Feathers. In episode 141, we have two wonderful guests, Nona Maiorano, who is returning. Welcome back.
Thank you, Brian.
And her friend Robin Anderson. Both ladies are from Rehoboth, and they have a wealth of information to share with our listeners today. Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome.
You did so well on the last episode that we invited you to come back.
Yes, well, that's what it's all about.
And then you have Robin, and yes. Robin has two beautiful Labrador Retrievers. They are both males?
They're both males. This is Jimmy.
Hi, Jimmy.
And this is Billy.
And Billy.
And they're brothers.
And they are brothers. Tell us about your Labradors.
So Billy is older. He'll be 11 in August. He is a grand champion, senior hunter with a Rally Novice title. He has sired a number of puppies, and his top winning son, who won the National Dog Show in 2022 in Philadelphia, is now a silver grand champion, and he is studying for his Master Hunter title in New Hampshire. And Jimmy is Billy's brother by a different father, but Jimmy is also a Finnish champion, and he's a Master Hunter with a Rally Novice title. They both have their Canine Good Citizen certificates. They both earn trick dog titles, and they both still actively train for competitions.
Beautiful.
Billy, I only recognize because he's got a gigantic, beautiful head.
Hey, Bill.
I always recognize because a lot of her dogs kind of are similar. But this dog is, and he's a charmer. Both of them are. This one has personality in the ring like you wouldn't believe.
He has presence.
Yes, he does.
Last time, Nona, you talked about your training.
Horses.
Horses. Mm-hmm. Now we're into dogs. Mm-hmm. Tell us give us a recap about your training of horses.
Well, you know, I've been at it forever. This year will be 44 years at dressage. And last time I did not tell you that I do have a website. It's dolcedressage.com. But on there you will find that I am the resident trainer at Broad Places. So Robin is not only my friend, she's also my boss, who I affectionately call my queen. So she and I became friends through a little bit out of, like she said, kismet, but sometimes the best friendships are made out of necessity. And I kind of showed up when I needed to show up. So she runs Broad Places, which is also where Grampian Labs is part of. So I take care of the horse part of the business as the trainer and basically the advisor for even the barn manager and everything going on there. And she has her dogs, but she also has a black forest German draft pony who's how many in the country? Maybe 5?
There are probably in the United States, there might be 40 Black Forest drafts, and in the whole world, there might be 1,200. So it's considered a rare breed horse.
Yes, and he looks just like the pony, literally, the live version of Philippe from Beauty and the Beast.
He does.
He's so beautiful.
And he acts like Philippe.
Yes, and he loves children, and he loves people. He's learned to drive. Robin drives him, and she's also ridden him. And we became even better friends as she loved me as an instructor because, hey, it's a good time. So I'm serious, but I also make it fun. So that's what we do.
Last time you talked about the connection between horses and children and younger adults.
Well, as Robin has posted in the barn, there is no age limit at the barn. There is from young to very old. So if you're in the spectrum of whatever, there's a place for you in the barn. If you're at the right barn, that's important. A place that she has a very sincere mission, and I'm going to let her tell you her mission. And I just happen to fit into that mission. But the mission of that farm, not just barn, the farm, incorporates exactly what you just asked. So I'll let you tell them your
Tell
mission.
us about that.
About the mission?
Yes,
The mission
please.
is to be welcoming to all ages and abilities. And so what I think I have found is one of Nona's strengths is to deal with people who have other issues. Because when you come to the barn, you've got to let all that go. Because you've got to deal with an animal. And an animal doesn't understand what our issues are because, I mean, they honestly have their own agenda. So when Nona comes to the barn, it's all about how to connect with the animals. And in Nona's case, it's the horse. And so we've taken people of all ages, but because I have an education background with children, I've really focused on the kids that come to the barn, what they're bringing in from their lives, and how we can help them get over whatever they're worried about.
And how to improve and better their lives.
And to
Exactly.
matriculate them into life. So in other words, she has this rule. It sounds a little severe, but I agree. You can work at Broad Places when there's work available, because we need to have people there to have people to work there. But you cannot work beyond 18 years old. Once you graduate high school, you need to get a real job. But what she offers there is part-time work. So in an environment where they start to learn responsibility, what it's like to hold a job, to attend at time, and all of that. So, and then in the middle of all of that, which is great, she does run some dog things. We have dog classes too. So I think we've found a way to bring the best out of people through animals. And my end is the horses, her end is with the dogs.
Very interesting. So these are people, young people of all abilities.
Absolutely. One year, we had Bristol Community College professor bring in their freshman class to see how a good facility is run. And what I noticed was 20 kids, I say kids, 18 through 20 years old. They all drove themselves there. And I noticed they were of all abilities too. There were kids in wheelchairs, kids like me who have to wear glasses, and you don't ask what's your problem. You say, what do you want to do with this horse? I had these 20 kids surround my pony to brush him because most of them who are going to go on in the animal field had never touched a horse. And so they were, all these ability kids came and touched my horse. And so that's the kind of thing that I love to see happen. Is people come into our barn, and I don't care where you come from or what your ability is, come.
Or where you're from.
Or where you're from, just come and experience what an animal can give you.
So even though she has me as a trainer who can basically train you to Grand Prix, I don't bring you in as somebody that I see as a cash cow or somebody like that. When you come to Broad Places, we want you to come in to experience learning, but not just learning per se, dressage, or even learning about dogs. It's learning how to be the best person you are inside through the medium of these animals. So we try to foster an educational, open, non-judgmental, welcoming atmosphere, and say, hey, whatever your background, whoever you are, come, and if we're a good fit, you'll want to stay. If we're not a good fit, by the way, we have no hard feelings. It's fine. It's fine. So.
But I bet you've had many successes.
Well, I think my biggest success, and I think Nona's biggest success, is one of her own family members came needing a safe place to experience her 16th summer. And it was Nona's niece, and I instantly fell in love with this young lady who was very, very troubled. And I gave her the responsibility of rehabbing my own personal horse who was having a health issue, a health crisis that could have killed her. And this young lady came 4 days a week and took care of this horse. And she had no expectations from the horse. She knew the horse needed her. I told her that horse needed her. She did an outstanding job with this horse, rehabbing her through the summer. And I think our pride is that this kid is now going into the Navy as a fully functional, healthy, confident young lady. And I think that it was partly because we gave her an animal that needed her.
So we saved her life in many ways, but also gave her direction at a very critical time. You know, puberty can really be troublesome. And she was struggling. Her mother kind of, was a difficult summer. And so when she came, and I asked Robin, I really needed her to work there. And they kind of didn't really need her to work there. They had enough help, but they opened up space and found out she gave it all her best. And so 2 years later now, she's joining the Navy. Last Thanksgiving, she said to me, "You gave me my life." And she just recently visited you because that horse that she had to work on did finally have to succumb to some of her ailments. And but, you know, with having given the full realm of opportunity to heal, but she still came out and said a very nice goodbye. So I'm so proud of that. And the other thing I'm going to say about Robin is her granddaughter also. I think her granddaughter, for me, is one of the greatest achievements, because at one point they were going to close the barn. And they opened the barn just before I showed up, and they got her granddaughter a lovely horse to work on, and she had another one that was a little bit disobedient. So, but anyway, it was a place to foster her granddaughter to come into maturity. She was very shy, very reticent, had a little trouble learning, didn't really, you know. So I got told, well, if anybody's going to teach her, because she liked to argue a little. Anyway, but she did brilliant. And that's where I kind of got to know Robin, because she would attend every lesson to kind of check in, like, what was I doing with her granddaughter? And I liked that, I respected that. And Julie's in Salve now. She's studying to be a forensic psychologist.
Yeah, psychologist.
I mean, this is a kid that wouldn't even, you know, stay overnight at her grandma's house. She was so insecure. And look at the barn developed that, you know? So I think that's a great thing. I think it's just great.
May we mention where your facility is located?
Yes.
Tell us.
It's in Rehoboth. It's on Terrybrook Road. It was formerly called Terrybrook Farm. And we bought it about almost 9 years ago and rehabbed it and renamed it and repurposed it. But Nona actually spent a lot of her childhood there.
I did.
When it was Terrybrook Farm.
I did.
And she's got fun stories.
Yeah, I do.
About the former owners.
And the geese chasing me up the driveway.
And the bull. And
yeah. Oh, the bull across the street chasing me under the barbed wire. There's a lot there. But I think, you know, the most important word you just used was repurposed it. And by the way, you know, not to sound, now we just said we're very inclusive, and now I'm going to make a statement that sounds like we're not, but what we would like is to fill a couple of spots that somebody that would like to come in, train there. They don't necessarily have to take lessons with me, but want to come in and bring a horse there that fits into this facility. It's a boutique barn. We don't, and I just use a bad word, facility. We're not really a facility. What we are is a boutique barn that can accommodate people with horses that are a little bit docile, and because we don't have a staff there to handle all kinds of issues. So a horse that could fit with us and would like to be with us and enjoy the facility, the trails, and if you want lessons, of course, I'm there. But we're looking to fill just 2 spots. So there is an interview process, and not because we want to be exclusive. It's really to see if it's a good fit, because we've had enough trauma with people not being happy. We don't want you to come in and not be happy to be there. You know, we want you to fit and come in and be, you know, feel like you're welcomed and we want to welcome you. So that's going on right now.
And the name of the farm is?
Broad Places Farm.
Now, why did you name it Broad Places?
So when we came, I had to look up what the word Rehoboth meant, and when the first people came from Rhode Island and moved to Rehoboth, they wanted more space. So Broad Places came from the word Rehoboth, which in Hebrew means we have more space, or we have a broad place. And so when I learned that, I thought, what a perfect name. Me coming from a little 3-acre plot in Seekonk, and now I've got all this broad place for all my love of animals. So that's why I named it Broad Places.
That's why it's not.
So it kind of comes from the Hebrew.
Yeah, and it's not Anderson's farm.
No.
Or it's Broad Places. And I when I asked her that, it was during she had a little doggy thing there, and I said, well, by the way, why did you name it this? Because people go Broad Places.
Mm-hmm.
Because most places are named. Goshen Farm or, blah, 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 dressage place or whatever. But this is not that. This is Broad Places. And it really is that. It's welcoming, broad. We do many things there. Like sometimes in the winter, the ring is rented, the indoor arena is rented. You had dog agility there for a while.
Well, yeah, one winter, Wet Noses Canines came and rented our indoor, so we had to share between the horses riding indoors all winter and the dogs' usage for agility. And we balanced that. Everybody seemed happy and they were willing to share, so that worked out really well. Mm-hmm. On May 4th, the Labrador Retriever Club of Greater Boston is having a spring fun match out in our paddocks as one of our first events.
I'm coming.
There you go. It'll be a lot of fun. We're having sweepstakes for puppies. We're having the regular classes for all the Labradors. I mean, typically you don't have altered dogs in dog shows, but our club does another thing called the Triple Crown competition for club members, and part of it is the hunting component, and some hunting dogs are neutered and spayed. So we decided to have an altered class for the boys and the girls, because part of the Triple Crown is they've got to do an obedience component, a confirmation component, and then the hunting component. And so we added more classes so that more Labradors could participate. We're going to have a working certificate test demonstration after all the show stuff is finished out in one of the back fields with a little pond to demonstrate to people who've never done it before what a basic instinct hunting test is for Labrador Retrievers. And we're going to have guns and things to throw and get the little puppies in the water. And our horses will all be outside watching all of this. What we found is our horses, this is one of the reasons why we want to be selective in making people happy, is they've got to understand that we share everything.
Yes.
And sometimes we're going to shoot guns.
Yes.
And if you have a spooky, skittish horse, the horse isn't going to be happy with the dogs running around and guns blasting. So that's one of the reasons.
That's a big reason, because I think former boarders really didn't understand that it needed to be shared like that. It's a big capacity to share, but you know what? If we do it right, which we would always say, this is on the schedule, this is when this is going to happen. So you would be prepared to know, but it's different, because not a lot of horse farms run, gun shooting off somewhere. Right. Although in Florida, I was at that farm and the neighbor had like a cannon, so that was like great.
That was good.
My horse got ready. I'm like, I can take him to Civil War reenactments after this. Yeah.
I mean, some horses are afraid of cows,
they are.
Believe it or not.
They are. They haven't seen them, and they smell funny.
When we first, I think it was like two years ago, the turkeys moved in.
Oh.
And at first, our horses were afraid of the turkeys because they're huge and they flap and they gobble. And now our horses herd the turkeys. Mm-hmm. So,
and there were more and more. Every time I was come to Rehoboth, I see more and more
turkeys, and they're very aggressive, and they follow the horses around, and the horses just turn around and herd them back out now. Yeah. So things like that
but the horses do get used to some of, it's nice because they're out in the summer, they're out all night, and they get to see the deer. They get used to things,
Right.
But that is part of what goes on. That's why it's called Broad Places. That there is, because Robin has invested how many years with the dogs? Your whole life, right?
Well, my whole life. I think my first dog was a little Cocker Spaniel in Colorado. We lived in Trinidad, Colorado when I was a baby. And I don't remember that dog, nor do I remember riding the quarter horses on the ranch where we lived. But I've got pictures of me as a little teeny baby riding the quarter horses in my father's lap. So I've got a long history with horses too, that that are terrific memories. That I don't even have that memory, but.
Well, I was explaining to Brian last time too, that my young student, who I consider a protege, has a great feel for the reins, and something very hard for me to teach, even the adult riders or people that have been at it a long time, texture and feel. And I feel that she came because of also cross-training with the dogs and the leashes. And you came, I told you, I said, I've never had a student so kind of learning the new basics, but your feel is just already there, and that's from handling the dogs. It's
a kind of a cross training.
Yes, it is.
Cross training, and I didn't even realize it. But one day, Nona was taking a lesson with her Fergus, with me in a rally obedience setup that I did. And she watched me and she said, now I understand how you can feel the reins, because she watched my hands with the dogs. Then this young Emma,
yes,
who lives in Swansea and comes to our barn, she'll be 14 this July.
14, yes.
And she started to ride at our barn about 2 years ago. And her puppy, who is a Labrador Retriever, started taking lessons with me. She saw the dogs in the car, and the family immediately said, we don't know, we have this dog, we don't know what to do with it. And I said, you come over here with that dog. And Emma developed this feel in the leash with her dog, who now has, at 3 years old, 2 junior hunter legs that Emma has done all the training for on her own. This kid, amazing kid.
What breed is it? A lab?
She's a yellow Labrador Retriever named Willow. And this teenager is so dedicated. Every time I say, there is a training session on this day at this time, she's there. And the same with lessons with her horse. Nona will say, when is your next lesson? And Emma says, when do you want me? And she is there.
And I probably shouldn't say this on TV because, but I'm going to, that her and I conspire when we get somebody in our nest. How do we develop this one well? Because we bounce them between the two things, between the horses and the dogs. Well, how can we, her strengths, my strengths, work together to give this person the best that we can give them? And so we have like our own little quiet discussions about that.
Right.
Yes, we do.
Well, I think that's what educators do, don't you?
Yes. Yes.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, you have teacher meetings and you bring out all the kids that need something extra, and the teachers all discuss, how can we make the best for this
Called
kid?
staff development.
And that's what we do.
Yes.
With whatever kid wants to come to us and learn.
I rely on her for her educational experience because, she wasn't in formal education for some time before you had to travel with your husband and everything. But she actually knows education. I'm a great instructor, so, and I'm not afraid to say it. But I also like to have someone else's vision. I like to have someone else to collaborate with. And I like to think it keeps me humble and it keeps me open to perspective. So I so appreciate having her because, I can go and say, I don't feel confident with this, or I'm reluctant with this, or I'm conflicted. What do you see? And that's wonderful to have that. It really is.
Could you talk about your labs?
Yes, I could.
How did you get interested in this breed?
In this breed, so I came from a collie background through my grandparents, and then I met my husband, who is an avid sailor. And
Captain Bob.
We call him Captain Bob sometimes. He's always had sailboats his whole life, and he grew up in Warren on the water, and his father had a sailboat. So I met this guy, and he wanted to introduce me to boating. And then we got married, and then I said, I need a dog. Well, my background was collies, and knowing what I had to do to keep a collie coat in shape, I thought I can never go on a boat and take a collie. So I started to look around and look at breeds, and I decided that this breed was perfect for being in the water, on boats, And we had our son, who at the time I was looking for the right dog, was about 8 and 9 years old. So I knew it had to be a dog that got along in a family situation. So I decided that that was the breed I would pursue. Funny that there was another kid in town when I was a kid whose father had Labrador Retrievers. I'd never heard of them as a kid. It was collies, or it was Spanky and our gang's little pit bull terriers. Those are the family dogs, or German shepherds. I was in this kid's backyard, and there were these 2 black things. I said, "What are they?" And she said, "Those are my father's hunting dogs." I said, "But what are they?" She said, "Labrador Retrievers." So I kind of kept that in the back of my mind. So when I became an adult and I was looking, I suddenly remembered, these are family dogs, they're hunting dogs, they're swimming dogs, perfect for my lifestyle with my blue water racing sailor husband. And so every summer we would take, I've always had more than 2, but every summer I would pick 2, and we would go off for 2 weeks on our sailboat to all the islands, New York, Rhode Island, Massachusetts islands, with 2 dogs. Now we don't have boats anymore, so they don't get the opportunity, but Billy has traveled all over on our last sailboat. He was my last boat dog. So he probably would remember it if I took him. He's never been on a boat. He was already in training, Jimmy was, when we started to get rid of our boat. So he never had the opportunity. But not to say he wouldn't do it, because that's what they do.
Mm-hmm. But he's still been in the water.
Absolutely been in the water. So my Labrador, so I got into Labradors, and there was a breeder in Bristol who happened to have a puppy. I should take it back a step. We lived in England for 3 years, and we brought a Labrador Retriever with us to England when they still had quarantine. She went into quarantine for 6 months, and it was a heartbreak. I said, I will never do this to a dog again. It was the worst experience of this dog's life and my dog's life. When she died in England, I came back to America and found a breeder in Bristol, and I bought a yellow lab, and then I went back to her and I bought another yellow lab, and by the time I had that second one, I discovered that I really wanted to do this dog showing thing. So she was my first introduction to dog shows.
Fabulous. I am being told that we have come to an end.
Oh my
Once
goodness.
again, it went too fast, Brian.
Right.
I guess we're going to have to do a third
Maybe.
appearance. Well, thank you, ladies, for
thank
coming.
you.
Thank you for having us.
And it went by so quickly.
Sure did.
And it was,
It was fun.
That's what counts.
And I am taking him home.
I don't blame you. He's handsome.
And he looked at me. Yes, you are coming with me.
They go with
Thank
anybody.
you very much.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank
it was
you.
fun.
Wait.